Well, good morning. Welcome to the 40th episode. Let us just do a quick little happy dance in the messiness and the divinity of this life that we are currently leading at the moment. If you haven't tuned in and joined us before, please excuse the introduction because it's just our way of doing things. I'm Tina Marie. I'm an intuitive strategist, and this is the Divine Mess, as you can well tell. And as every week, I am joined by my delightful co-host, who is also one of the closest humans to me, even though he doesn't live anywhere near the vicinity of where I am. He sort of ranks about number 4 or 5 underneath my children and my partner. He's the next person that I go to when the Divine Mess is very messy and when it's really good too. So he gets it all. So I'd love to introduce Curdy David Perriman, who is the Chief Cook and Bottle Washer at the Heroes Mystic, who will help you find your inner hero when you're feeling like an inner critic. So I'll handball it over and then we can kickstart.
Well, thank you for this delightful introduction. I love it. Thank you so much for that. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to our 40th. And we were having a chat before that, and we said, wow, already 40. Not far away from the 50 mark. And when we first started, we were like, yeah, we're just going to, like have fun with it. And that's what we did. And interestingly, like this year, we decided like to open the virtual couch, like we call it, to people. And that's what we felt like our 40th is like a reflection over the people that came on the virtual couch. And we did have a batch, like you call it, right? A batch of people that came through, and we are planning in the future like to bring more people in to show the world like what they are doing and how they are serving the world in their own way, in their own fun woo-woo way, because that's how we roll. We always have the woo-woo and we welcome that, and everyone is like very keen. And we have been sharing like really casual and really flowing conversation. And I feel like every guest that came on became like a self-reflection of our journey, because I was like looking and listening to the previous episode, and I was like, yeah, each person that came on to our virtual couch taught us something. And, like it brought us back to our core, like to our light, to some of them make us remember our light, I would say, our return back to our love. I think the most interesting one for me would be my parents. That remain the most interesting. And I think like most people who came on the virtual couch with us kept telling me like this is the episode they want to listen to, like with my parents. And I find that really interesting that people will be keen to listen a conversation between my parents and I and you on the couch, and that was interesting to know that.
Oh, they're just such divine people, right? And the thing is, they've had a long-standing love story. They've endured so much, yet they still act like teenagers. They still go on dates. They love to go dancing. But I think the biggest thing for me was that your mum started a business, at her age to be of service to other women in the community. And she's a born educator. She's been an educator her entire life, whether you would traditionally class her as an educator or not. But that's the role that she's taken on. And now she's educating more people about, how to get out of the circumstances that they're in. And I think that's what we've sort of found with a lot of our guests that have come on is that they have, like we all have traversed some really average stuff in our, all of us have, but we've managed to find the lesson in it. We've managed to find well, it made no sense at the time with wisdom and grace. Looking back over our shoulders, we said, oh, okay. Yeah, now that makes sense. But it's interesting, like the age range of people that we've had on in this first batch of guests is, they're not young whippersnappers. They are, people that have seen a lot of life and are still determined to lead the rest of their lives, in that second season, like they're in their 20s. They're going for it, and they're going for it really hard because they feel that their mission isn't, it's not done. Whereas I think so many people of that age and stage kind of go, well, that's it. I've raised my kids. I'm going to sit back in the lazy boy recliner and I'm done. Like, no. But
That's what
it's, go on, sorry.
no that I was just going to add, like, that's what most people will do. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to retire. Like my parents put it, like my dad put it that way. He repurposed his life, like no matter what his age was, like he repurposed. And I feel like every guest that we had in the first batch, except one, like they were like in their later stage of their life, but yet they repurpose and they're still vibrant. They are still sharing their wisdom, and they are open, like to even like to connect with technology, and they share their challenges with technology as well, to go online, to share, like to show your light to the world, like through social media, where we know like you can be judged like really harshly in 1 second. Like you can go from the most lovable person and to the most hated one on the internet, and that's how people are. Nowadays they find it easy to criticize others, but the
It's
people
very
that
easy to
we
criticize others when you're sitting behind a screen, right?
yeah, and it feels like that's the comfort zone, like to criticize others. And I feel those people who are criticizing, it's because they are unable to do the things that maybe the people are sharing or doing in their lives. So it's easier to criticize that, to find something wrong with the world, to find something to blame the others, rather than take responsibility on their own life. And I heard like a story about that. It was regarding Michael Jordan, and there was one of the stars, like all-star in basketball, called Charles Barkley. And he was telling a story about one time he was walking with Michael Jordan on the street, and there was this homeless guy who came to him and just said, can I have some money, right? And Charles Barkley was taking out his, like his money, and was going to give to this person, and Michael just stopped him and just told him, like, serious tone. He said, if he can ask you for money, he can go to McDonald's and say, welcome to McDonald's. How can I serve you? The the point of the story is like, you can change your life, like in an instant. Because he was saying like, I'm not going to enable you to keep asking for money when you can create money. And that was one example of that. And I feel our guests, they are creating their own, abundance, focusing on abundance and how to serve the world in their own way. Every single one, they had a different style of how they are approaching that, which we found fascinating to learn. And the coming ones as well are more fascinating, and it's get like more fascinating and interesting with time. Like and it's getting more and more intriguing. At times we are like, wait, where is that coming? Like you wonder. And like we told our guests, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying to you, obviously, before we press record, is that from a parental perspective, we always say, oh, study really hard, which gives you options, right? And there's still a mentality of, options like doctor, lawyer, and then obviously the physical trades like being a carpenter or a plumber or an electrician, because where we are in Australia, mining, working away, being a FIFO worker is quite well rewarded in terms of financially, which enables your kids to get ahead. I wonder how many parents have their children come to them and say, I really want to be a Reiki healer, or I really want to be a sound healer, or, I think I might like to be a priest. Like, how many, I'd love to know, right? I'd really love to know how many parents that are around, my age and stage have their kids coming to them talking about spiritual gifts and what they want to do, how they want to utilize them. Are they more awake and aware to them than what we were when we were kids? Because Jesus, you'd never tell anybody that you could talk to spirit, or that you got downloads, or that you could see the future, or whatever your gift happens to be. Like Dr. Marsha has spoken about in her episode, that no, can't hear it, put my hands over my ears and put my hands over my eyes, I can't, no, you're not there, can't hear you, can't see you. I'd just be really interested, are the younger generations talking about gifts and spiritual, gifts within the spiritual realm more openly than what we ever did? That for me is fascinating.
Yeah. And I feel like, to everyone listening, is like, just ask yourself for a moment, like, would you go to your parents if back then, when you were a kid, you had this one dream that you were focusing on, that you were like, yeah, this is something I want to do. And then imagine the conversation you had with your parent. How would they react? Like how, or if you did talk to them about it, how did they react? Did they tell you to go and be like a doctor or
Get a real
engineer?
job.
Yeah, how are you going to make money, or something like that? So that
Mm-hmm.
will be, and do comment about it. Like when you are listening to this episode, do comment like, what were your dreams that you had that maybe you never shared with your parents, that you kept within you, and now you're like reflecting on your life and say, why not? Why not take that step? And I feel like with every guest that we had, like that's what they were telling us. Like they chose their light and they just went for it. No
Yeah,
matter
but
the age.
yeah, and sometimes it does come to us later. Like, we get bogged down in the messiness of the traditional life, let's put it that way, or as seen as the life that people expect you to lead. You go, get educated, you meet a nice human, you settle down, you get married, you have babies, and life should be great, right? But I think every single one of our guests had this little niggle, this little edge of discomfort in their life, going, this is great, but it doesn't quite feel like it. I think there should be more. There was that underlying thread, I think, through all of them, that I know there should be more, but what is the more? What is the thing that I'm meant to be doing? And how many times Do you need to have that smackdown where you fall down to your knees and go, I don't know what I'm doing, before you have this dawning realization? You go, oh, there was a lesson in that. Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah.
So that for me, it was interesting, like how many times of being taught, like these basic skills, whether it be about boundaries or accepting types of behavior, or whether it was listening to your own intuition, or like Sharon going on and jumping into the massive pot that is feng shui, and people thinking that she's going to be Chinese and she's not. So that just because you're being called to a certain thing, you don't have to look a certain way to be able to do it. I think that was, for me, has been a big takeaway, is when you look at all of these people that have come on, they may not fit a traditional or a typical mold of what you feel that, a heart healer should look like, or a voice coach should look like, or people starting new businesses should, act and feel and look like, or what you think a romance should look like, any of those sorts of things. It's just going to show that your own uniqueness can be the thing that helps you to create your abundance. But you've just got to be brave enough, I think, to fly your own flag, or to wave your own pom-poms, or to stand up on the stage and grab the microphone and go, I'm pretty bloody good at what I do. But not being afraid to say it. I think that's the biggest thing that we've all been told about, being respectful and mindful of others, and don't be too showy, and don't be too outspoken, and all of the societal conditioning. You get to a certain age and you just go, fuck it. It's gonna do it anyway. And it's quite refreshing when you get to that age and stage. But I wonder whether the younger generations, the ones that are our children that we're raising, have the fuck it attitude, or whether they still have our conditioning layered in their DNA, whether it just oozes out of their pores, or whether it's a different mindset for them. I don't know. We would love to invite younger humans onto the virtual couch and have a conversation about how they're navigating their own spiritual gifts, and what that looks like for them, and how comfortable they are in sharing those, versus people of, an older age range. I think it would be a really interesting conversation.
Or even like, what do they understand by their spiritual gift? Because when you're younger, like, you don't understand it. And if you read most of the spiritual teachers that we know, like Kyle Gray, I'm thinking of, like, he had his mom who understood the journey. So he had a clear support that he could go to.
Yeah.
Like even Gabby's mom, Gabby's mom was in a different type of spiritual journey compared to Gabby's one. So still, she had the guidance. So it will be good to hear, like, from a young human, like, what do they understand by spiritual gift as well. And I feel like the guests, it was like a celebration with everyone we had. And for me, it was like, it just added to the fun we had every single episode. Like, they just came in and just added it and add their own spice, like, make it different, make it the conversation go. Like, every conversation we had, it was like different from the initial one that we did before, because with every guest that nearly everyone, we just, except our, like my parents, or
and Wendy.
Wendy, who didn't know. She was the first guest and she was not aware at all. so this was surprise because for us it was like gratitude to the person who introduced both of us,
Yeah,
and that's how we met through Wendy's program. And except for Wendy, like we did have initial conversation, and we always say at the end, like, we don't know where the episode will go, like we don't know where the conversation will go on that day, and every single one stayed true to that statement. Like it went like in a complete different direction on that day, and we were like, okay, this part we didn't know about that person. Like this is a new aspect that you're learning, and that's what we love with those conversations, that we always shared
absolutely.
like a different piece of wisdom that came through during the conversation.
And I think that's the most important part, right? Like is what's meant to come through on the day does. And I think that's the thing that I love about our podcast. We're unscripted. We don't edit. Whatever gets said on the episode gets aired, unless, I think a lot of people come on the couch with that understanding that it is raw and it is real. It's not, there's no airs and graces about anything that we do. We don't have a beginning, middle, and an end. The only thing that we ask for is people to distill their wisdom into practical application. So for them to give the listeners 1 to 3 things that they could use to layer into their own lives to perhaps begin their spiritual journey, or to hone their own skills, or what direction, if they're interested in learning more about whatever the guest specializes in, to then be able to go and gain more knowledge and gain more wisdom and follow up and go, okay, well, I want to take one of their classes, or, I want to follow their content because I'm very interested in what they've got to say. So I think that's the main part of it, is that we're just wanting to help people navigate life just with a little bit more ease and grace. Life's it's not going to be easy. You're going to have moments when you're on the wheel where you're at the top of the wheel and it's beautiful and sunny and you've got a great point of view and a great outlook, and then the next week you could be hanging upside down and screaming for dear life. It's just the way it rolls for all of us. I think that, from all the people that we've spoken to, so many of them have undergone serious tragedies. They've undergone massive life-altering events, or sometimes they've just been little like hurdles and stumbles for them. They haven't gone completely pancake down on the sidewalk and smash their face into the concrete to get that dawning realization. Some people are better listeners to the universal signs than others, like myself, who's had a couple of very large swift kicks in the behind, or big smacks up the backside of the head, before I've actually realised I could relinquish control and surrender, because David always sends me those things. Surrender more, surrender more. And all I want to do is put my middle finger up to him on the screen, which I do on a regular basis, and say, that's what I think of your surrender business. But I think some of our guests have been more elegant at times in the way in which they have handled things. And like David said, it's been a good reminder for both of us that sometimes we could navigate it a little bit better, or when we needed a reminder that we're doing good stuff, that, because on some days you just don't feel it, right? I don't know about you, but on some days I go, this humaning it's a little bit challenging. Might just want the stage right exit today. Like, I just don't want to.
For me,
I don't want to do it at all.
I just go and check the moon phases, so I know. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my excuse, like that become my excuse. But I feel that's a really good excuse to my mind to say that. But it's true as well, because I know, like, spiritually, on a deeper understanding on the spiritual level, I know that the moon do play a role into my creativity, or how how I approach life in terms of surrender, being patient,
Mm.
not pushing for things. Because you said something earlier, like life is not as easy as like sometimes we have challenges. But when I was like, you listen to Abraham Hicks or the other spiritual authors like who channel, they say life is meant to be easy. We humans, we complicate
We make it
things.
difficult. Mm.
And when you hear our guests, we all went through that phase. Like we all doubt ourselves. We all question ourselves. We all did, like, who am I? What I'm doing on this earth? I feel lost. I feel stuck. We all went through that. But it's just the way how we approach those questions and how we reflect and actually take action. Like how many, no matter how many smackdowns you got, you still, like you will still rise again, and you will
Yeah.
say, okay, like maybe you will have a cry, maybe you will have a chat with someone, and then, okay, let's move on. Let's
Yeah.
surrender
But
and
Alyssa
move.
said the same thing, right? Because it does
Yes.
come down to us being able to balance that masculine and feminine energy within each of us, that we do have to surrender to the flow of life, but it doesn't mean we can't point our boat in the direction in which we want to go. Like, you're on the river, but you do need to steer the boat some. It's you could try and go upstream and just be pushing it consistently, or you could go with the flow and ask some good questions and wait for good responses. Or even if they're not good responses, there's something you've got to learn out of it.
Yeah, or listen, like listen to the responses. I can feel the middle fingers showing up. You can't see it, but I can tell you for sure it's there.
Yes,
But
it really would like to, but no, it's only because it's on reflection of looking at all the times when I bought my own design and thought I knew better, that the being a control freak and wanting everything to be in the exact order and the way in which I wanted it to be. And I think our guests, in their own journeys had that element of, well, I'm doing what I think I should be doing, but it doesn't feel good, or it doesn't feel right, or why am I constantly sick or being injured, or people are treating me really poorly, or whatever your thing is that keeps showing up. They're trying to talk to you. It's just that the lesson shows up in a different set of pants, right?
Yeah.
And it'll keep
And
coming.
and I feel like the guides, or the universe, spirit, they are very patient. They are very, like, thank God, like they are very compassionate, and they are not like giving you a deadline, for you to understand the lesson. Like if you don't understand that by the 24th of Feb, like
That's
you're
it. We
gone.
quit. We're done. We're out.
Yeah, you're on your own, like deal with your own shit, like you deal. You want to push your way? Okay, go for it. But they do have that fun sometimes, like they say, okay, let's see how far you can go, like let's have a chuckle about it and laugh about it.
Because what
But
Marsha was saying is exactly the same thing, right? Like in
yes.
terms of, you were never not loved. You were never not being cared for, even when you feel like it's all falling apart. Because sometimes we do need to go through that death and rebirth cycle where family, friends, jobs, or, you know, everything just falls away and it feels like you've got nothing.
Yes.
The universe is clearing a path for you, because instead of desperately clinging on to those things, and it's a hard lesson to learn, because trust me, done it numerous times. We have to be able to relinquish the people that are not meant to be in our lives for a lifetime. They're there for the lesson. They're there for a purpose, and to let it go so that someone else can come in and inject you with new life and excitement and knowledge. And you know, you never know when the next opportunity is going to come, but if you're so busy looking in your rear vision mirror, you're not going to get it. It's going to shoot straight past you and keep going. You know, it's like, we're giving you all this opportunity. We've loaded all the beautiful things up on the truck that you want, and then you put your shades on and you can't see what's coming. So the truck gets reversed out your driveway and takes off until you're ready to see. You know, and sometimes we can't lead other people to their own spiritual journey. It's something we each have to discover on our own, right?
That's so true. Like for you though, I was like thinking about that when we said like we're going to record our 40th. Like, did you have like any, like the biggest lesson ever from all the 40 episode, or that keep coming back? Did you have a lesson for you that kept coming back? Or were there like different...
there were different bits, but I think a lot of it, you know, like it distilled down to me is being true to your authentic self. Whether it impresses anybody, whether it doesn't impress people, whether people get you or understand you, living your own truth, being authentic, following your heart, you know, that the kind of all encompass in a nice little package. That was the strongest, I think the strongest thread through all of them is, despite, you know, there will be adversity and there will be challenges, but if you remain unwavering in your own truth, this is who I am, this is what I find acceptable, these are the boundaries that I have in place, you know, this is who I am, love me as I am or don't, and knowing that you're always fully supported, whether it feels like you are or not. There's always other people like us who are out there and who are willing to give of their time and their effort and their energy. All you need to do is ask for help. There's an abundance of help. You just need to put your hand up, because you're not an island. You don't need to do it all for yourself. That for me is, you know, the community of people who are out there, who are willing to give of their time, their love, their knowledge, all of it. They're there, but you're not going to see it if you're not willing to. That for me was the biggest thing, being authentic, and there is community there if you want it.
That's beautiful. You know,
How about
I
you?
like that. For me, it's like like you mentioned that word, like unwavering, you know, like that unwavering. For me, it was like unwavering faith in the universe, like no matter what your external is looking, and surrender, right? I love that. I love that word keeps coming back. It's a good reminder.
I might as well just get it tattooed on my arm. I think that'll be the next one I get tattooed on my body, is I'll put surrender on one side and trust on the other, you know, and just going, okay, I need that daily reminder. Thanks very much.
And I feel like that's one major one, but it's like having those guests made me realize like how people have, like creative ways of helping others, like how creative people can be and how we are unlimited as human, but yet we feel limited. But once we trust our soul, like how those gifts are shown up in the world and how creative we can get by serving others in so many different ways, like and those gifts reinforce that for me, like because even us showing up for the episode like every single week, people might think like it's easy, like as yeah, we just have conversation because for us it's easy in that way. It's
Yeah,
fun in that way.
yeah.
And that's where I notice like the creativity amplifies when you're having that level of fun. That's when it become really easy.
When it's effortless, right? I think it's
Yes.
one thing that I've learned about this whole experience, that there was such a resistance in getting started, like,
Mm,
oh, famous people have got podcasts. What the hell, why are we doing this? Because, the humanness of it. Oh, nobody's going to listen to it. What? Why? We're just talking to ourselves. But then it's like, no, we're creating a weekly reminder, or daily, because of how often we speak. We're creating a reminder for ourselves, like it's a continual reminder of remaining authentic, remaining true to who we are, what we stand for, and that our biggest thing is being in service to others. So whether one person listens and it has an impact for them, whether a million people listen and it has impact for them, we've done it. We've done the thing that we set out to do, is being of service to other people. It's a prime reason for us doing this in the first place, is to show that anybody can do it. I think we sit in like the top 5% overall because we've done more than, what is it, 10 episodes?
yes. Yeah, we
Of
were like in
the
the 10% when
top
once you pass.
10% once you pass 10 or
Yes,
15
10.
episodes. So, you know, from those statistics, it's a win for us,
Mm,
but we celebrate every single one.
mm,
And I think the more gratitude and the effort, or the energy and the intention of gratitude coming into every episode, because it's always a joy. It's
yes.
always a joy to sit down and have a conversation, whether it's just you and me or whether it's with a guest. It's always fun. I'm always learning something from it. So it's not a chore or an effort. I think that's another thing that a lot of people can take away, is where in your life feels like a chore and an effort. Where could you do something that feels effortless, that feels easy, that feels in flow, that you show up because you just want to? How many of us are going and doing things or being with people because I should, or I have to, or I don't really want to, but I said I would, and feel really icky about it? What happens if you did the stuff that made your heart sing and set your soul on fire and brought such an immense amount of joy? It's 1 hour. Like, where could you go and do something that you really want to do for an hour? It changes your perspective on absolutely everything. So go and navigate your own divine messes with perhaps a little bit more authenticity, and inject a little bit more of your own uniqueness. Take off the shackles and maybe be a little bit bolder and be a little bit braver and try something new, because you never know where it's going to lead, right?
Yeah, and also like share your insights, like based on people who has been listening to different episode, whether you listen to it randomly to what suit you on the day. So share your insight, like tell us what is your biggest takeaway and which one are you actually putting into action. And we're really keen to know, and that will help us and guide us maybe like to get more topics like to share about in the coming weeks, even if we do have guests coming in as well, but to reflect on those and how we can serve you better as well.
And if you've got some really interesting humans in your life who you think would make great guests for the couch, share our details with them and say, you need to have a conversation with these guys because I reckon it's going to be really good. I want to hear what's going to come out of it.
Even if you feel you are that person. Yeah.
We don't care if you work in a bank 5 days a week. If you're doing something, that brings your spiritual gifts to light and you're utilizing them every day, please get in contact with us because we love learning, and the more we can learn about this crazy woo-woo world that we live in and how we can best navigate it, then we want to know all about it.
Well, I think like that should be a good time to say your favorite sentences.
We
Your
love you.
opinions.
Thanks for joining us. Your ass looks great in those jeans. Get on with it. And thank you, as always, to my divine co-host. And we look forward to having you on the 41st episode of The Divine Mess, or wherever your finger decides to point on the Spotify or Podbean playlist. And until then, take care. We'll see you soon.
Well, thank you so much, and we will be looking for you for your insight, for your like feedback, and thank you for everyone who has been following us for the episode. And there's more to come. We are growing, and we are learning, and we are innovating, and we are still looking good in the jeans. So
we are.
And this episode, I think, is not meant for kids. Yeah, I just need to tell Podbean.
Probably not.
On that note, thank you. Have a great week ahead of you, and looking forward to the 41st one.
Okay. Take care. See you.